Writing a book does not need to be hard. Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ian from mindfulmarketplace.com, and I want to welcome you to our brand new series for authors and teachers and inspirational entrepreneurs who truly want to change the world with your work. So we have a whole slew of new content and courses and community for those of you who are aspiring to do really great things in the self-publishing space in 2020 and beyond. And I encourage you to sign up at the link below, especially if you're working in the mindfulness or the service or personal growth, spiritual development, or enlightened entrepreneurial niches. So one of the things that comes up quite often is people are simply afraid or, let's say, apprehensive about writing their first book. And I'm going to share with you some simple heuristics and really kind of workflows below that I think will help you get out of your head and sort of back into your flow for creating content that truly changes the world. So first, you really don't need to write War and Peace to be a super successful author. And there are some really super simple templates that I found really helpful in my own writing life, as well as 4 types of books we are specifically working with our own entrepreneurial authors with in 2020. These aren't going to be the perfect fit for every project or every platform or even every person. And I've certainly seen many clients that we've consulted with over the last few months find that these aren't necessarily the perfect kind of templates for them. But if you are really in the vast swath of our audience of entrepreneurs who want to write books that change the world, I truly think this is going to be a super helpful process map to follow. So without further ado, let me just dive right in and describe some of these types of books and why I think they may be a good fit for you. So number 1 is a Q&A book. And in my mind, these are probably or they're my favorite actually, and they're probably the easiest type to write and recommend as well. They can be super helpful for clarifying your message and ultimately building a bridge between your words and your actual work in the world. And while many people think that Q&A books aren't real books, let's say, some of the most powerful, profound, and life-changing books that have been most impactful to our own audience. And when I say our audience, I mean generally people in the mindfulness, personal growth, and spiritual development space. And we are mindfulmarketplace.com, and most of our authors do fall into that sort of, bucket, let's say, of interest. But most of the, or not most, but many of the books that are really popular in our community, ironically, are actually written in some, style or format that is related to the Q&A, book approach, right? So something like The Power of Now, or, something like Conversations with God, or even a book that really influenced my own interest in meditation, which was called I Am That by Nisargadatta Maharaj, pretty much are all written in this extended Q&A style format. And one of the things that's really beneficial about a Q&A style book is that you're directly addressing the questions and concerns that your ideal audience may have about a specific topic or niche or area of understanding. And by addressing these things in a skillful way, you're actually positioning yourself as an expert and authority and a thought leader in this space, right? So there are lots of ways to kind of hack your way into a really, really good Q&A book. And one of the best things that we recommend folks do is go use a tool like answerthepublic.com, where you can literally curate and collect collections of questions that people are asking in your niche, market, your chosen topic, vertical, or industry, and just answer them, right? You can verbatim almost find out what people in your niche need to know or want to know, and you can just, in a short weekend, write a book that helps folks overcome whatever these obstacles are, again, by dint of answering the actual questions they're typing in to the search engines on a regular basis to learn more about. All right, so number 2, an old way versus new way style book. And again, this is a great way of articulating and then overcoming an entrenched way of thinking, and then ultimately transcending that with a new angle, idea, or approach. So something like the keto diet, which is pretty much a relatively new approach to diet or nutrition, is a good example of this. I mean, there are like hundreds now of books about keto diets that pretty much position this diet, and I'm not a nutritionist, so I have no sense of whether this ultimately is true or not, but positioning the high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet versus the traditional kind of diet that's been out there for 30 years that's been recommended. That's a really good example of a old way versus new way approach to a niche or a topic or an area of understanding, right? So, I recently worked with a couple folks in that particular, marketplace, and really it was super easy to compare and contrast the way people used to eat by virtue of the recommendations of health and wellness professionals versus how these new authors recommended people approach nutrition and diet in lieu of what's now more widely available information-wise to those who want to optimize their health. All right, so number 3, an overcoming objections book. This is yet another way of articulating that you understand and empathize with a series of common objections that your reader may have to solving a particular problem or making progress on a particular path. And one of the books that does this very well, that has sold exceptionally well and has become very popular even in our own community, is something like the Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics book, written by Dan Harris, the 10% Happier app creator and TV anchor, along with a co-author, Jeff Warren, who's a popular meditation teacher. And essentially all they did there was articulate the reasons that people say they have trouble meditating, right? So they essentially just regurgitated back the things that people told them when they did this sort of tour, pre-book tour, as to why they couldn't meditate, right? So I don't have the time, or my brain is too noisy, or my kids are too noisy, or my job is too stressful, or whatever it was. And they just essentially overcame each one of those objections with a recommendation for how to work around that perceived challenge. And what's interesting is in our own community of mindfulness based entrepreneurs, this was one of the most popular books when we asked people what they really have liked reading in the last year or so. And this particular approach, ironically, was what people cited most frequently as the reason they enjoyed reading that particular book. So, that's something that you can obviously emulate, and it doesn't diminish your author aspirations if you're just writing a book that articulate the challenges that people have in your niche, your area of expertise, and how you recommend overcoming those. All right, and lastly, what we call a Launch It With Less book. And this is essentially a system that I created a few years ago for teaching courses and creating content and writing short books. And by now, as I record this in quarantine in May of 2020. It's been literally used by hundreds, if not thousands, of entrepreneurs around the web and around the world. And essentially, here is the process map. There is an introduction, which is essentially who you are, who the book is for, and what they should expect when they're done. There's a core concept, which is the central theme or thesis of your book. There's a single exercise or technique. There are common challenges that you articulate. Q&A. Small ask, which is the micro commitments you want your readers to try or apply. And then finally, a big ask, which is the main change you're asking them to enact in their lives, right? So it's 7 steps: introduction, core concept, single challenge or technique, common challenges, Q&A, small ask, and big ask. All right, and that's essentially the whole thing. And it's really easy to write and really easy to articulate a new way of approaching or attacking a problem or a path or a process. And it's really ideal for what we call bridge books. And bridge books introduce an idea that invite or inspire an experience. And as an entrepreneurial author, this is ultimately what you offer your audience when they are finished your book. An experience that transforms them by dint of immersing themselves more deeply in your words, your wisdom, and your actual work in the world. Okie doke. So I hope this has been somewhat helpful. Again, this is Ian at mindfulmarketplace.com. And if you're interested in joining us for some of the great challenges we have coming this spring and summer in the self-publishing space for authors and entrepreneurs who are really looking to do some unique and inspiring work in the world, I certainly hope you'll join us at the link below. Thanks so much, and I look forward to talking to you soon.